Welcome back, folks. In today's episode of the Together in Battle Campaign Creator Guide, we are going to look at how to create your thumbnail for your campaign, how to create your introductory cutscene, and how to take all the characters you created and put them into the player's starting roster. Before we get into the cutscene stuff, I just want to show you the thumbnail creation. So this is very simple. You're just going to create a thumbnail image of any kind. It's going to be 440 pixels by 440 pixels. It's going to be a JPEG, and it's going to be named thumbnail. Thumbnail.jpg. You just make sure it goes in your campaign's folder, replacing the sort of default thumbnail image that's in there already. And whenever you upload your campaign, that will be its thumbnail, and it'll display to anyone who's browsing through custom campaigns. Very simple, very straightforward. Now, with that out of the way, let's go on to the introduction cutscene, the main event, the reason we're here. In order to create a new cutscene, you click this new cutscene button, but when you create a new campaign, it is going to automatically generate a sort of a default introduction cutscene, so we can just click that to open that in the cutscene editor.
Welcome to the cutscene editor. Cutscenes let you develop your story and characters outside of battle, give access to shops, support custom menus in a visual novel style, and, of course, offer support for voiceover narration like what you're hearing right now.
Thanks, Past Me. Yeah, exactly what Past Me said. You can think of a cutscene in Together in Battle a bit like a slideshow. Each individual slide of the slideshow is called a frame. So this example cutscene has two frames, as you can see here in the top right. We've got frame 1 and we've got frame 2. Frame 1 here has a black background, which we can change using the background button here. If we click this, we get a whole bunch of different backgrounds we can choose from, and I'll just pick this one sort of randomly, the clearing.
Welcome to the cutscene editor. Cutscenes let you develop your story.
So you're probably wondering, wow, Craig, why does that voiceover keep playing? And the reason is this special text that I've highlighted right here in the narration. -VO: cutscene editor intro end hyphen. So basically what this is doing is it's telling the game, hey, look for a voiceover file in your campaign's dialogue folder called cutscene editor intro. Now, in this case, you're not going to find that in your campaign's dialogue folder because cutscene editor intro is actually baked into the game itself. But if you did want to record your own voiceover narration, there is already going to be a folder in example campaign called dialogue, and it's going to have a file called custom asset info. And that's going to tell you pretty much everything you need to know about recording your own voiceovers. Whatever voiceovers you record, if you want to use them in your campaign, you just put them in the dialogue folder, and then you can access them in your cutscene's narration by using the special character. Now, that having been said, let's remove this here so we don't keep hearing this every time we edit this frame. And let's actually change, from these instructions to an actual introductory narration. This is the story of a lovely lady who had 3 very lovely girls. Okay. Voila, we now have altered the narration in this frame. We could create a new frame if we wanted to, but you will notice, again, there's already 2 frames in this cutscene. Let's just take a look and see what the second frame is. Well, what do you know? It looks like we have dialogue attached to the second frame of this cutscene. So let's talk about how dialogue works. There are 2 different buttons that pertain to dialogue here. We've got current dialogue, which tells the game, okay, what do we have assigned to this frame of the cutscene? Right now we've got intro assigned to this frame. Now if we want to actually edit the dialogue, we click this button, Edit Dialogue. And that brings us to this scene. This is the dialogue and script editor. If you played any RPG with a dialogue tree, this is just what it is, right? Dialogue in Together in Battle is individual dialogue trees. They each have their own name, or conversation ID, as it's called, and they each have branches. So this is the dialogue that was showing up in frame 2, intro. Right now it's got 3 branches. You'll notice branch 0 is what we were seeing show up in there. If we click it, we will see, okay, branch 0 has a branch name. That's optional. We don't have to have a name for the branch. We have the speaker, who shows up at the top, and we have text, which is what the speaker is saying. Obviously, this speaker doesn't represent an actual character, but if we were having characters converse, we would want to put character names in the speaker spot. You will notice that every branch, in addition to having a speaker and text and potentially a branch name, has actions and replies that can be put onto it. Replies are pretty simple. Replies are just if you want the player to have more than one option for how they react to the dialogue, you put an extra reply. Here we've put in text for it. There are different types of replies, and these have different behaviors. If you just want to go to the next branch of the dialogue tree, you put in next branch, and there's no parameters that go with that. And voila, just like that, we now have 2 different replies. One that says enough of that, time for a new scene, and that has the next scene reply type associated with it. And a second reply, I want to hear more, that takes us to the next branch of the dialogue. Let's hit proceed, and we've now edited this with our changes, right? It now has 2 replies. I mentioned this before, I'm going to keep mentioning it. The guide is a really important resource for this. If you click reply in the guide, you're going to see all of the different reply types and get descriptions of what they do. Let's jump back and see what happens if we refresh this. Look at that. We now have 2 replies showing up beneath our dialogue. Simple as that. Let's save scene so we don't lose our progress. And let's look at actions. Actions are extremely powerful. Each of them does something totally different that hooks into the game's code in a certain way. Right? Script actions are sort of like the beating heart of coding in Together in Battle. Now, I don't want you to get too intimidated by this. It's not as complicated as it sounds, or at least it doesn't have to be. This one action we see here in branch 0 of our dialogue has 2 aspects to it. It has the action type, and it has parameters. And every action is sort of broken up into those, the type and the parameters, just like with our replies. So this action, run, takes 1 parameter, being the name of a script. And whatever script you put in the parameters, the game is going to run it. Here, we're telling it, find the script called start game values and run that. Okay, Craig, you might say, what does that mean? Well, if you look right next to our intro dialogue here, there's a script called start game values. All a script is a bundle of other script actions. Whenever you run a script, it is going to execute every script action in the script in order. So, when we say run start game values, it's going to go down this list of actions, starting here. Set start date. Set start date tells the game exactly what date the game begins on. Let's cancel that. We want to leave that be. So here we're saying, okay, this game's going to start on the first day of the first month of the year 4452. Simple enough. Set aura. This is also a script action with a specific set of parameters and a specific effect. Here, it edits the player's money. So you'll notice here we've got it set aura equals 2500 with a little colon between the equals and the 2500. This is a kind of a format you'll see used in script actions a lot in the game. Operator and amount. So an operator is just saying, okay, what are we going to do with the amount? Equals means we're just setting it equal to that number, right? So set aura equals sign colon 2500 is literally just setting the player's aura equal to 2500. But there's a bunch of other operators. We could do plus, right? We want to give the player an additional 2,500. Minus, we want to take away 2,500 aura from whatever the player currently has. And so on and so forth. Again, this stuff is all in the guide. If you look at action, this is going to show you every script action in the game with explanations for how they work. So let's find set aura here. And voila. You can see it explained right there. Simple and easy. All right, moving on. We've got set food, we've got set list, we've got another set list, and all manner of other things. We don't really need to go through all of it, but just be aware, this is going to allow us to set a whole bunch of values for the start of the game quickly and cleanly by just calling a single script. We don't have to attach every single one of these actions to the dialogue branch. We can just have this one action and then let the script do all the heavy lifting. Let's jump over to start our starting rosters. This button right here, Edit Rosters, this is what we use to set up the rosters at the beginning of the game. It's very simple. You can have up to 9 rosters going at the same time. If you use a script action, you can actually set even more rosters than that. Let's go ahead and say that the player starts out the game with Jack Protagonistman, Rosemary Flower Thicket, and Liz Zarid in their starting roster. Proceed, save, and now, at the start of the game, those 3 characters are going to already be in the player's starting roster. This is important because there are a number of effects that rely on rosters in order to work. Like, you can have the game list every character in a roster, you can have it affect every character in a roster, and in battle, when you let the player deploy their units, it's going to refer to rosters to say, okay, which characters does this player have available to deploy? So it's important to set that starting roster at the outset. Now that we've got our starting roster set up and we have a little bit of familiarity with how dialogue works, let's go back and edit our starting dialogue so that our characters are actually talking to each other. Now, remember, we've got Jack Protagonistman, Liz Zarid, and Rosemary Flower Thicket. Edit dialogue. Let's go ahead and change this to Jack Protagonistman, and we'll have him say, "Hey Liz, how's it going?" And we'll get rid of this reply, right? We want to just go to the next branch so that Liz can reply. Let's hit proceed. And now we're going to go to branch 1. And we're going to change this so that Liz responds. Not bad, except for all those enemies. And let's have Rosemary chime in. Rosemary Flower Thicket. Oh yeah, we should probably do something about them. Huh. Okay, and here the reply is of the end conv type, which is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It ends the conversation. Proceed, proceed, exit, save. So now, we got frame 1. This is the story of a lovely lady who had 3 very lovely girls. Frame 2, we've got our starting dialogue. Now, you heard a sound there, right, when that played. That was the little babble speech sound that the game associates with characters talking. Because Jack Protagonistman is a character that we've already created, and because he's in our starting roster, the game was able to pull his voice data and automatically say, hey, this is Jack talking, let's have the little babble sounds for when he talks. One thing we're missing, though, is we don't have his portrait showing up. In fact, we don't see anyone. So let's go back to edit dialogue and fix that. The very first thing we want to do is run an action called add speaker portrait. And here it's going to refer to the speaker property of this branch, Jack Protagonist, and it's going to pull his portrait automatically. Like, we don't have to specify that. That's just going to be taken care of all on its own. Let's have him facing right. And let's have him looking, happy. X position, Y position, reference name. We don't have to fill those out just yet. Let's leave that as is. And let's proceed and exit. And now if we reload this conversation, look, it's Jack Protagonist, facing the wrong way as he was created to do. That's pretty cool, right? If we want, we can just leave him sitting there, and he will continue to be in that location in the next branch of dialogue, and we can add Lizarid in the same fashion. Add, it'd probably help if I spelled it correctly, add speaker portrait. This time we'll have facing left, facial expression, concerned, and we'll leave that as is. Proceed, exit. So this is only showing us the first branch of this dialogue here in the preview. If we want to check and see that this is working as intended, we will need to hit the test button to watch it in action. Before we do that, let's add one more portrait. Let's add Rosemary. Add speaker portrait on the branch where she shows up and talks. We'll have her also facing left. And we'll give her the facial expression nervous. All right. I can already tell you there's going to be a problem with this, but I'm not going to tell you what it is just yet. See if you can figure it out before we get there. Let's click test, and let's proceed. This is the story of a lovely lady who had 3 very lovely girls. Hey Liz, how's it going? Hi Jack. Not bad, except for all those enemies. Oh yeah, we should probably do something about them, huh? Alright, so this is the end of the dialogue if we click, right? That's going to call end conv. And there's nothing more to it, right? It just ended the scene, and there's no next scene, so the game just says, well, okay, I guess we're going to just exit now. If we want a next scene, we need to go into scene settings, and we need to set the name of our next scene. We're going to call our next scene Battle 1. While we're here, let's get some music going. So there is a whole bunch of different music that you can play, like during a cutscene, 4 pages worth, in fact. To audition any of these tracks, you just click it, and it will it'll play it, and you can listen to it. Ah, Riddle Door. Right, that's a nice one. Maybe not exactly what we want for this. Maybe we should, let's see, what's a good one for this? Getting to Know You. This is a nice chill bossa nova track by Ryan Richko. Super great, good for chill scenes. We'll just click it, and voila, that is the music for this scene now. So we've got our music, we've got our next scene, and let's hit confirm. And let's save. All right, what was wrong in our dialogue there? I think probably the biggest issue was characters were just showing up, just popping into existence. What we really want to do is have them show up off screen and walk onto the screen. So we've got our facing direction, right? We've got our facial expression. What we need to do now is set X and Y position. So as it says up here, X of 0 is the left edge of the screen, 10 is center, and 20 is the right edge of the screen. So what we really want to do is actually set up Jack off screen to the left. Let's have him show up at position -10, 0. And then what we want him to do is to move on screen. We're going to use Move Portrait for this. Reference name is his name, Jack Protagonistman. That is telling us, okay, find the portrait named Jack Protagonistman. We're going to set our X destination to 0, our Y destination also to 0, and our speed to 120. Glide, we're just going to leave it off, and voila. We now have him showing up off screen and then moving on screen. And we can do the exact same thing for Liss. Because Liss is showing up facing left, we want him to show up to the right of the screen, right? Remember 20, X position 20 is the right edge of the screen. Off screen to the right, we can go for 30. That tells it, okay, along the bottom of the screen and off screen by about 10. And now, we're going to have him move on screen. Again, using move portrait. Reference name, Zarid. X destination here again, being aligned with the right side of the screen is 20, so we want him to move to 20 and 0. Speed, let's have him go a little bit faster. 150. Okay, good. Now, for Rosemary, right, when she showed up before, she was showing up in the exact same spot as Liss Zarid, which is not what we want. We really want her to not completely hide Liss. So, we're going to also have her show up off screen. She's facing left, so she's going to be showing up off the right edge of the screen. And we're going to have her move. This is Flower Thicket. We're going to have her move in a little further than Liss. 16, 0. And we'll have her move even faster than Liss. 200. All right. Let's save and see how that does. This is the story of a lovely lady who had 3 very lovely girls. The reason we're not hearing music is because I have that turned off. Let's turn it on. Oh, look at that. Jack's just walking on screen. Hey, Liss, how's it going? Hi, Jack. Not bad, except for all those enemies. Oh yeah, we should probably do something about them, huh? So Rosemary is once again overlaying Liss. So we would probably want her to move in even further. Maybe to about, 12 or so on screen. Or, the other option we have is we could have her simply appear off screen beforehand. Now, you might notice, okay, we're just sitting here. Why are we just sitting here? We're sitting here because the game is trying to find Battle 1 and it can't find it. Because we haven't created Battle 1 yet. That's okay. We'll get to that. That's going to be our next video. Let's go back to Edit Dialogue and see if we can fix that overlay thing with Rosemary. So we're going to actually get rid of Add Speaker Portrait. And we're going to put it on the previous branch of the dialogue. So let's just grab her name real fast, save ourselves a little bit of time. We'll hit proceed. So we're going to add her above Liss Zarid. Let's do this here and move it up here. She's going to go in first so that she will appear behind Liss. So for this we can't use Add Speaker Portrait. And the reason we can't use Add Speaker Portrait is Rosemary isn't the speaker in this branch. We have to use a different action called just Add Portrait. This is very similar, except that we have to supply the name of the character whose portrait we're putting on the screen. So once again, we're going to have her face left. Color name, we don't really need to, but she's going to be blue, because we are the Blue Army. Facial expression. Nervous. X position. 30. Y position. 0. And that's that. We're not going to mess with the other parameters. Proceed. So now she's going to show up beneath Liss, and it's not going to be a problem. Let's hit proceed. Let's hit exit. Let's save, and let's test. So we can't see Rosemary because she's off screen, but she will show up behind Liss now. Look at that. Isn't that nice? And we fixed it. So there's a lot more that you can do with a cutscene like this, but hopefully this gives you a pretty good sense of how it works in a general way. There is one more thing I want to show you before we call it quits, and that is how to add in voiceover dialogue. Alright folks, so you might notice I've now switched over to a new program. This is called Audacity. This is a free, open source program that is excellent for recording voiceovers, sound effects, whatever kind of audio stuff you want to do for your campaign. So, just as an example here, I'm just going to record a little bit of voice acting for the dialogue we just wrote. All you have to do is come up here, click this little record button, and it'll start automatically recording, and I can do a little bit of voice acting for our campaign. Hey Liz, how's it going? And voila, just like that, you will see this is the part where I actually speak. Everything here is just silence. We can click the spacebar or press this to hear it played back for us.
Hey Liz, how's it going?
And we can do all kinds of things to edit it. This little thing here is the envelope tool, which I'm a big fan of. You just sort of click a line and it creates a point. And everything between the points can be edited, can be pulled up or down. So if we did this, it's going to sort of make everything before we start recording silent in case there's any background noise. And here, same at the end after we stop speaking.
Hey Liz, how's it going?
Makes it very clean. There are all kinds of effects. There's a whole bunch of options. We're not going to get too deep into it here. All we really need to know is that we're going to take our file, we are going to export the audio, and we're going to export it as an OGG Vorbis file. And we can pick pretty much whatever name we want. We're going to go with intro Jack01, and we are going to save this in Documents, My Games, Together in Battle, Custom Campaigns. Example campaign is the campaign we're working with right now. We're going to open. We're going to go to Dialogue. We're going to open there. And then we're going to save it in this folder here, Intro Jack01. We will click Export. And just like that, we have some voice acting that we can pull into the game. We load our intro cutscene back up. We go into Edit Dialogue. We go over to the branch that we want that voice acting line to play on. And we're going to add a new script action called Play Dialogue. Now, as it says up here, in order to play a custom file, we need to add custom to the start of the sound name. So the sound name is going to be custom, intro, Jack01. Proceed. And now, when we get to this branch of the dialogue, it's going to play our file. Let's save the scene, and let's see it happen in action.
Hey Liz, how's it going?
Boom, just like that, we've got some voice acting. And if we wanted to change the timing on that, which is a thing we can do, let's go back to Edit Dialogue. There is a very important script action called Wait. And it just tells the game, hey, wait for this number of seconds, and it can be a decimal, before you play every other action after this, before you run all the actions after this. So let's try delaying that by just like 1/5 of a second, 0.2 seconds, before that plays, so that Jack is on screen before we hear the line. Exit, save, and let's run it back.
Hey Liz, how's it going?
Boom. Amazing stuff. So this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to creating cutscenes. There's so much more you can do than what I showed you here. Again, you really want to look in the guide, especially pay attention to actions and to a somewhat lesser extent replies. And there's so much cool stuff you can do. Special characters also. I didn't even start talking about special characters, but these are special things you can put into your dialogue, and it will substitute data, basically, for the special characters. We'll talk more about all that stuff later, but for now, that's all you need to know to create a basic introductory cutscene. In our next episode, we're going to build off what we did here. We're going to actually create Battle 1. We're going to talk about how you create a battle, all the cool stuff you can do in that, and yeah, I will see you then.